I had called. I didn't know that you had left. This is the night I forgot the memory card at the house. And I had needed some research on something. And I yelled, I was like, Corey, are you still here? And I sat and I paused for a minute and it was nothing. I was like, it's like, I need the producer. I need her here. Yes. Okay. Boom. Let's do this. Make sure we all set. We all ready to go. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yo. Chicago. What's going down? Detroit. I'm still in Michigan making money in Detroit, man. I'm making money in Grand Rapids, man. Killer Consulting. You gotta come knock these doors with us. It's a lot of money in knocking doors. Michigan, what's happening? Milltown. What's happening? It's your boy, man. Politic Poppy, aka Grassroots Poppy. But when I go in the hand and when I go in the rooms to shake hands and tap pockets, I tell them my name is Jamiroquai Kittler. You could call me any one of those. Just don't call me out of my name, you heard? And this is Politics as Usual. And I'm so happy to be back with you. Thank you if you listened to episode 00 and you listened to episode 1. I am grateful. I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And by the time you hear this, it'll be the new year. But my birthday is on December 31st, so I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? I'm feeling great. Your boy turns 30. I got a good show for y'all lined up today. All right? 2026 is here. We living it. We sitting in it. A lot of stuff is about to be determined over the next 12 months. A lot of those determinations get to be made by me and you. And that's what today's entire show is going to be about. It's going to be about the decision for 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out that in Milwaukee, and there's probably other areas like this, but for sure, baby, Milltown, the ballot finna be live. It's going down. All of the county supervisors, the county board of supervisors are up for re-election. Now you might be asking me, Donnie boy, why were you sitting here talking about the board of supervisors at the county level when we got the governor's race in November? Because that's really where all of the decision is made locally about the quality of our life and the cost of our life and the flow that places like Milwaukee get to move in. And we ignore races like the county board elections because, A, we don't really understand what they do. Let's keep it a bean, all right? Let's be honest. It's a couple of us out there in politics who have no clue about what's going on. Some of them running for office. Some of your favorite politicians don't even know what's going on. They have no knowledge. So you can imagine that the ordinary voter, like me and you, sometimes we fall short. We ain't perfect. We ain't the Lord. We fall short of the glory all the time. Of course, we ain't gonna know it all. But you got me. County supervisors are very important, okay? They're the ones that pass the county ordinances and the countywide services that we provide. They help pass the funding for that. They allocate the dollars to different places within the county, whether that be stuff for the zoo, structural things, infrastructure things at the county level. They call them capital improvements, fixing the roads. All of this stuff is county supervisor business. All right? The roads is messed up. You want to know why the road project's not getting completed? It's likely because your board of supervisors at the county level probably didn't budget something right. You know what I'm saying? They ain't budget something right. They spent too much money. Now something hurting. Now we got to wait for this. We going to dig into it, though. They approved the county budgets, right? So the county budget that we recently had that had a $42 million shortfall, we're going to get into that in a minute, too. Your board of supervisors at the county level, they approve these budgets. They sit down and they think about all of the different items that the county needs to prioritize within its limits. They hold hearings for the public to come to join them at City Hall to have the conversations or advocate for or against different spending proposals, whether they are in there proposed or not. Right? They oversee the county departments and the agencies that they allocate these different funds to. And they set policies countywide. Your county board members are very important, much more important than who's going to be the governor, although it has a great impact. We have to reshape how we think about local government. It's a shame because the same people that'll tell you that the presidential elections mean nothing, the same people that'll tell you your vote don't count because of the electorate or whatever, those same people will tell you they have no clue what a county board supervisor is, what they do, or how it impacts them. But it's much more important for y'all to show up in spring than it's going to be for you to show up in November, especially if you live in Milwaukee. Because a lot of the issues that we're dealing with in Milwaukee city and county level, they're issues that were created by local government. They were not created by state government. I mean, there are trickle-down effects, of course, but state government it serves as an anchor, as an assistant to places like Milwaukee, right? Whether that be more revenue coming to the city, whether that be tax credits coming because of these different filming agencies saving more money to come film in places like Milwaukee, right? Whether it's the Brewers Stadium, right? The state will have an impact on policy in Milwaukee, but your county supervisor, your city council, which is your alderman, right? Your county executive, these are the places where you can really find the impact and the decision making being made, shaping your life and the quality of your life in places like Milwaukee. They break up our county board into these different committees, and all of these committees take care of different things, right? You got your public safety and courts, you've got your health and human services, you've got transportation and infrastructure, you've got parks and public land, you've got economic development. All of these committees are made up of your county board members. Milwaukee County and Milwaukee City is separate, just so you know. Just to add some context here. I want to make sure people understand the differences in these things. Milwaukee County and Milwaukee City, they are different. Now, they do intertwine at times, but they are supposed to be separate. There are taxes that will come down on Milwaukee City that other cities within Milwaukee County might not have to deal with, right? In reality, your county supervisors are having a large impact on the day-to-day infrastructure, the day-to-day life of living here in Milwaukee, whether that be the jails, whether that be the mental health treatments, whether that be the transit system. It could be anything as far as the services that the county provides to its people. But for some reason, in spring elections, the number of individuals going to the polls, they drop. It's not a small decrease in the number of voters going to vote in these elections. It's a lot. It's a lot of people staying at home in April. Now, you want to stay at home in February? I don't agree with it. I'm a black man. I feel like enough people got smacked in the face and hit with water hose and chased by dogs for me to get my black ass up and hit the polls. You know what I'm saying? I can go do that. I done got in my car to drive at 1 o'clock in the morning to go get some coochie that I ain't had no business going to get. I can go vote. You know what I'm saying? If I can put the effort in to go do that, I could go and use my constitutional right as an American citizen, my God-given right that people died for me to have, to go and vote. So I'm going to go vote no matter what. But if you want to sit at home in February like a lazy piece of shit, all right, cool. Don't stay at home in April, boss. Too much at stake for you to stay at home in April. Why do I say that? Your county executives, they the real big cheese. Your county board members, they the real big cheese. Your order person are the real big cheese, man. It's not the governor. It's not the president. Why do we think that these guys who sit up top have so much to do down low? How many times you seen Tony Evers come to Milwaukee when he didn't need your vote? When he didn't want to tout a win that didn't belong to him? You never see it. Why? Because they ain't got nothing to do with none of this. They fight is way greater. Way greater. Depending on who in office, they might even tell you that's a Milwaukee problem. I hear that a lot of times when I'm going to lobby on shit. That's a Milwaukee problem. We don't deal with that out here in Waukesha. The county supervisors are the real big fish. Let me give you an example. From 2020 until 2022, Milwaukee County was granted $347 million in spending through the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act. Now, all of this money was supposed to be money to help the county of Milwaukee continue business throughout the pandemic. Let's keep it a beam. Mask and hand sanitizer. Mask and hand sanitizer don't cost that much money. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of paper. It was supposed to be for revenue loss recovery, right? You know, the county, the world is shut down. Nobody's outside spending money. We're losing money because there's no tax revenue coming in. Businesses are shutting down. We need to make up for this, or we're going to be in a huge hole that we will not have the resources to fill. And they got the money to do that and then some, right? I can guarantee you the $347 million that they got during the pandemic, it towers over the $42 million hole and deficit that the county was just in during this past budget cycle. It was supposed to help stabilize public safety and parks and libraries, right? Those very essential things that we need, although a lot of these places were not even open and operating properly during the pandemic, but that is another conversation. One day we got to talk about this COVID money in deep detail. Where's the money at? NPS got a lot of money. All these public schools got a lot of money. These government agents got a lot of money. They gave us a little bit of money during COVID. It was people that was at home celebrating little $1,500 checks. I was still working, you know what I'm saying? I want to sit at home. I don't want to sit at home if I can. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do that. But I was outside. I wasn't happy about it. We got to talk about that one day. Let me get back to it. We wasted a lot of that money. We wasted a lot of that money. How is it that we received $347 million, but the budget that began in 2022 had a deficit of $20 million? How are we operating at a deficit? How was there a $20 million gap in the budget cycle going into 2022 if we just got $347 million? Well, maybe part of it is because we're doing things like spending $8 million on overseeing the money. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. $347 million as soon as it came in. We spent $8 million on on administrative fees to oversee the money. Now look, I know some dudes in the hub that can oversee and bookkeep for the low. You could have gave me a couple $1,000. I could have came and balanced the checkbook. You spent $8 million watching over the money? Where's the money? You know who got to decide where that money went? Your Milwaukee County board members. They allocated that money. They got to decide what was priority, what was going to survive, what was going to get the funding. You know what else they used that money on? DEI and racial equity spending. How? It's a lot of black businesses that went under because of the pandemic. They closed. Where did the money go? If you out there and you black and you got some money from the county through the CARES Act or the American Rescue Plan, I'm not talking about the PPP because they different things. I'm saying the federal government directly gave money to the state of Wisconsin, to places in the state of Wisconsin. Milwaukee County ended up receiving some of that money, $347 million in total. Where did the money go? Show me the black businesses that benefited from that money. Not the PPP, from that money. We always use this DEI stuff as a way to justify some of this spending. Listen, I love all people. That's right. I hate nobody. As a matter of fact, a gay man officiated my wedding. That might be why it didn't work out. I'm just saying that as a way to exemplify I hate nobody. We going overboard with some of this though. You know? We doing too much with the pandering and trying to appeal to everybody. Where's the money? Your county board members know. The zoo got some money. The zoo probably needed some money. The zoo was ran down. You know what I'm saying? They took some of that money and they took care of deferred capital improvement projects like road projects, right? That's on record. But it's not enough. $347 million is a lot of money, bro. You want to know why it's also important? The county board members that you elect. They also are the reason why the Milwaukee Public Museum is no longer public. Now, because of great people like Corey Houston, who was not nice enough and believed in me enough to hire me to help her do some PR work and do some grassroots work. Thank you, Kittler Consulting. Call me. I have great experience in advocating on this issue and also great knowledge about the travesty that took place at the county level as it pertains to Milwaukee losing control of its public museum. It's not even called the Milwaukee Public Museum anymore. It's the Wisconsin Conservatory for Art and Bullshit. I don't have the exact name. But it's not the Milwaukee Public Museum no more, boss. The Milwaukee County supervisors voted to chip in $42 million. $45 million, excuse me, to building the brand new museum. Do you know that at the same time, we voted away having any control about this new museum? Milwaukee County had board position on the current museum. We had more say-so, more leverage. We have none of that anymore. So we got $45 million to build a brand new museum. Mind you, it was cheaper to fix the museum we already had. But the person running the museum, she decided that the museum needed millions of dollars in equity updates. What are the equity updates? What are equity updates? Black people that's watching out there, can you tell me what an equity update looks like for you? Leave it in the comments. If you don't go into the new museum and see thick ass ladies in dashikis dancing to cultural music, I ain't gonna hold you. They fell short on the equity updates if that's not what you see. I don't understand what an equity update is, because what is that to look like in a museum that's about to be mostly screens now? Most of the diaphragms and all of the displays, they getting rid of all of that. And because the museum has been further privatized, something that the county approved of, your county board supervisors and your county executive did approve of further privatizing our museum. That was them. They're selling all of that stuff, and we don't have any idea about where that money is going. Even though Milwaukee County has invested into the museum every year, at least over $3 million Milwaukee has given to the museum and its infrastructure and its dealings. All of that money that we've invested, all of that time that we've invested in our museum, and it is now in the hands of private owners. Your county board supervisors did that. Milwaukee makes $0 from the new museum. Your Milwaukee County supervisors approved of that. We have no equity stake in it. None of the money coming to the museum. We can't account for that and allocate it to other things in Milwaukee. But we've been spending millions of dollars a year into this museum. We just gave them $45 million. The state chipped in another $40 million. We have no say-so about none of this. Your county board supervisors made sure of that. Even though it was cheaper, they cited equity updates. I want you to call your county supervisor and ask them, what are the equity updates? Can we please get an answer on this? It can't be removing diaphragms and diagrams and displays. It can't be that, because if that's the case, they would be adding stuff, right? So that there's true representation, right? True equity. Corey, what's the lady's name that runs the museum? Dr. Ellen Zinsky. She is the CEO of the museum. It's not the Milwaukee Public Museum anymore. It is?
MPM is a private company that manages the museum.
Okay. MPM is the private company that manages the museum. What is the new name for the museum, Corey? The Wisconsin Museum for Nature and Culture. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. For the cost of these equity updates, I better see some Africans and dashikis doing cultural dances in the museum. Okay? All right? If this is all for equity, I want to see live demonstrations of equity and culture in this museum. Otherwise, we just spent a whole lot of money defending our personal political beliefs. This Ellen Zinsky lady, that's essentially what she wants to do. She's politicizing the public museum, and she's taking away all of the oversight, all of the ability that we have to speak up against what they're going to do. We have no more, and that is your county board supervisors who made sure of it. And that's why it's important to go and vote in these races, because all while we are losing money, all while we operate in this deficit, we have $45 million.
Can I interject?
Yes.
What you should also be worried about is the millions of dollars that they're claiming
Is this mic working? You come say that. Okay. The camera's not necessarily set up for you to see Corey, but you can kind of see her right here. Corey, can you repeat exactly what you just said?
Sure. In the museum currently, there are what they have called built environments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so NPM has given the county their final disposition plan, what we're going to sell, what we're going to give away, what we're going to auction of our public museum.
Mm-hmm.
That information contains this word called built environments, right? It's a word they made up and added to this plan. That we conservatively think could mean these dioramas that are built into the museum, so that they are taking public assets that were pre-war, pre-World War II,
Very valuable stuff.
very valuable stuff. And by calling it a built environment, they're claiming ownership of it. And now they can then sell it. They can do what they want with it. They can auction it, but they can also sell it to pay for that building, that's that private building.
Can you point to all of the times that the county supervisors had opportunities to stop that from happening?
Since 2003, yes, I can, because since 2023, at least our group has been advocating for transparency, for more information, for actual accountability for the streets of Old Milwaukee. I mean, they're going to, once they even said that they were getting rid of the streets of Old Milwaukee, then of course the objections have been coming. So they know, the county knows exactly that the people are unhappy about it. But they were sold a bill of goods. They were sold that they have to, you have to get rid of the old museum in order to save it, which is not actually what's happening. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Corey. I appreciate that. And to that point, right, it probably did sound good. I mean, think about this. You're in Milwaukee, you're representing a county that, you know, they are in line with a lot of these different DEI cultural things. And look, me too. I will sit here and tell you all day that it's a lot of racist shit going on. I'm gonna tell you that, right? These crackers is wilding out here. Some of them is wilding. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not no victim. And a lot of Democrats get caught up in victim politics. And so imagine being a county supervisor for a district as such, and you hearing this lady tell you that the current museum needs a lot of changes. This Ellen Zinsky lady, yeah, she's saying that all of these changes need to be made, but the museum is outdated, and it's culturally outdated, and it doesn't necessarily fit the community that's actually coming to this museum here in Milwaukee, which is a farce. Because I was just at the museum. It's a lot of black people that go to the museum. We be out there, family-free days, all that. We depend on them days. Hopefully we still get them. You know, them private dollars, they don't like giving away stuff for free. This is a travesty that could have been prevented by your county board supervisor simply voting no and pushing to fix the current museum instead of building a brand new one. And then what, you gonna spend money knocking down the old museum? That's more money spent to build what? Some housing? A new safety building? Come on, boss. We've invested over $3 million at least year over year into the museum at the county level. We finna get nothing back. Nada, zilch, none. The $45 million that was pledged by Milwaukee is debt. So you know we gotta pay interest on the debt. The $45 million that Milwaukee County chipped in is not even cash moolah. And how do you pay interest at the county level? Your property tax levy, which is already increasing because NPS keep coming to run your pocket some more for that too. We're going to talk about that next week. Your county board races matter, bro. And we got to make sure we outside having conversations with our county supervisors as much as possible, going to that. Sometimes these races outside of Milwaukee County and the county and the city level, they matter too. I want to point out one race in particular and highlight one individual in particular, Brian Stile. Brian Stile is running for re-election in his U.S. House district. I love Brian Stile. Brian Stile was one of the first people that I had the privilege of voting for when I first got into politics. Brian Stile is a man of the people. They are essentially trying to make it much more difficult for him to win his reelection, right? And, we'll talk about fair courts and fair judicial systems later. But they've challenged that the current electoral map is unconstitutional. That is racist as well. They keep drawing Brian Stile into an area that is much more liberal and Democrat, hoping that it pulls enough votes over to get him out of there, trying to make it virtually impossible for him to defend his seat. Some people see this as an opportunity. One of those people is man with a child predator mustache, Randy Bryce. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't like men with this mustache. This is a very particular mustache. It's the Lovely Bones mustache. You ever seen the movie Lovely Bones? It's a sick film. It hurt my heart. It's the reason that every time I'm with my daughter and I'm walking past a fat white man with one of those mustaches, I automatically hold her tight. You know how when white people see black people coming, how y'all kind of clench y'all purses and pearls and shit? You might cross the street. When I see a white person with one of them mustaches, I'll hold my family a little bit tighter. I think that the mustaches is weird, and Randy Bryce got one of these mustaches, man. I thought Eric Hovde should have cut his mustache off before he ran for the Senate, and he kept it. And I'm not saying that that's why he lost, because I voted for Eric Hovde. But it maybe didn't help. You know what I'm saying? How you look, it's a lot, bro. It means a lot. And the mustache gotta go. The child predator mustache gotta go, Randy Bryce. Randy Bryce, former DUI alumni, iron worker, labor union policy protector. He's a big labor union lobbyist. That's the type of guy he is. He announced that he is running for this seat again. Listen, this guy, he does not win elections. And he's been running for office for a long time. He ran for school board. I think he ran for state assembly. I might be wrong on that. I don't have it in front of me. I'm freestyling right now, right? And he's run for this spot that Brian Stile has in the past. He's never won in a race. I think he's ran like 4 or 5 times up to this point, and he never wins. It might be the stash, bro. I'm just being honest. You know what I'm saying? Hovde never won too, and it could have been the stash. Or maybe it's because you drive drunk in Wisconsin. That's kind of frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? I don't know. We do way worse things than I think everybody drive drunk in Wisconsin. Y'all just don't want to admit it. Everybody done had a couple after the Packer game and got in their car and drove. I do not approve of that. But if you're good at it, man, that's none of my business. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not in support of that. All right? He is a piece of shit. I don't like his policy at all, this Randy Bryce dude. I don't know if he a piece of shit or not. I take that back. I don't just want to, be mean to people for no reason, but I don't like his policy. It's the same rhetoric from every side of it. All of these guys do it. They say the same things over and over again. Oh, we support workers and unions. Oh, bust the unions up. I don't like the unions, okay? I don't like unions at all. And anyone who is voting to expand union power, I do not support it. That's Randy Bryce because he comes from the unions. That's who's going to bankroll his campaign. That's who's going to give him a lot of money. Is his pals in the unions. Right? Healthcare. He's really big on Medicare for all. He's really big on socialized medicine. We talked about how socialism is the new Jim Crow on the last podcast, so I will not hang on that for too long, but just know you do not want free healthcare in your state. It's not free. It's going to break your bank every single time because that's what socialized policies do. They break the bank. They rob Peter to pay themselves. You know what I'm saying? He fought for the mandatory $15 minimum wage. I do not support this policy. I think any mandated minimum wage increase will lose you more jobs. I'm not going to lie. If I got to pay the busboy $15 an hour or $20 an hour, I'm just not going to have a busboy. All you do is pick the dishes up off the table. The waitresses can do that. Clean the table off, get the next ones in. You putting a lot more on the waitresses. But then that's when you have those issues where you are overworked and underpaid. When you start to push policies like these $15 and $20 minimum wage hikes. There's not a lot of people making $7.25 no more. There's not a lot of people making $10 an hour no more. You got to be working entry-level work to be getting paid $10 an hour. So why are we making this push for mandatory increases on the minimum wage? If you just have a positive economy, you cut taxes, you budget well, or you are business friendly, those businesses will pay more money. For example, and I won't stay here long, but tax cuts in 2017. I'll never forget that night that Donald Trump signed that bill into law. There were corporations sending out emails to their employees that night to say, we're giving you a raise. We're offering you health insurance now for your minimum wage, for your part-time position. That was going on. If you want to pay people more, you want a society where people can make more, then create policies and set laws that incentivize businesses to do so. That's the perfect thing about the free market. He wants to abolish ICE. Randy Bryce, shut the fuck up. Go home. Go home, Randy. Go home, get you a mustache cut. You can at least get the joint where the beard connect to the mustache. You know what I'm saying? You can get one of them joints where it don't look like you steal children. I would prefer that. And I'll tell you another thing. Brian Style is a great congressman. I love Brian Style. He's the exact opposite of what Randy Bryce wants to be. Brian Style cuts taxes. He is for middle class. He is for workers. He's for the lower class. He wants to pull people out of poverty. He's great when it comes to military issues. Brian Style is the stuff. Brian Style has a telephone town hall like every month. Brian Style then had 3 to 4 in-person town halls the year of 2025 alone. Politicians don't come outside. I want y'all to know this. I've been in this long enough to know that a lot of people run for office just because they want some insider trading knowledge, some power. A lot of these guys, scam artists, these politicians. Brian Style really is the man of the people. Tom Tiffany, as much as people love him, I think he's a great guy too. He don't be doing town halls like that. He's a congressman. Gwen Moore? Where's Gwen Moore? I love saying that. Where's Gwen Moore? Nobody can ever find Gwen Moore. Gwen Moore doesn't come outside. She doesn't have town halls. Mike Gallagher, he doesn't really have town halls, bro. But my boy Brian Style comes to talk to the people, and we should be electing people who are willing to come and face their constituents. We should elect people who are willing to have serious conversations, not just pass along their own individual needs and wants, but represents the people. And if I call Brian Style right now, I can get a phone call meeting with Brian Style. I might not be able to get him to my event, motherfucker. But I can get a phone call with him. And I appreciate people like that. I appreciate people who serve the community and then actually serve. Look out for all U.S. House seats being up. Because you want to know who else is up this year? I think Gwen Moore is. And I get some research on that. And Corey isn't in the room right now, so I can't ask her. And I don't want to pull my phone out to search. But I think Gwen Moore is up. We should do something about this Gwen Moore shit. A lot of your aldermen are up for re-election. All of you. Milwaukee, all of the aldermen are up for re-election. Your common council is very important. Your common council is very important. They're the ones who are going to adopt the ordinances and the resolutions from the city's local laws. They're going to approve the city's annual budget. They're going, and that's all with in the realms of taxing and spending and borrowing. Very important stuff. They authorize and block a lot of the mayor's decisions, appointments, and departments. And I'm not going to lie, our common council, they not afraid to veto the shit out of the mayor. They gets busy when it comes to representing the county. And you want to make sure your aldermen that you go out there and vote for, I want to be clear. Let me make sure I create clear and distinct separations. The alderman persons handle city things. Your county board members handle Milwaukee County, and your alderperson is going to handle Milwaukee City. That's why they can get in the weeds and veto the mayor's decisions. It's citywide. It's not countywide. They are essentially there to serve as representatives of their individual districts. They are the bridge and the lifeline between the people in the city of Milwaukee and the higher-ups in city government. They're your middlemen. Your alderperson you should be tight-knit with your alderperson. You want to know how important your alderperson is? Let me tell you about Peter Bergelis. Peter Bergelis, I don't got nothing against Peter Bergelis. And now we probably sit on different sides of the political spectrum. I could tell you that. You know, I'm not really big on the DEI stuff. He's really big on that. He supported stuff like that, you know, inclusive spaces and all of that stuff, right? But when I went to the capital improvements meeting last year, August, Peter Bergelis was in there raising hell about the money that keep being deferred, the road projects that kept being deferred in his district because they didn't have the money. They kept running out of money. And I'm sitting there, we sitting in there in this meeting, and right before my man Peter go up there and speak, this one organization go up there talking about Green New Deal initiatives and zero emission initiatives and money that they want to spend on making Milwaukee greener. Because, of course, the air that black people in Milwaukee breathe is just so foul. That's how they be talking about our communities. And it do be stinking in some areas. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes when you in certain parts of the city, it do stink. You know what I'm saying? That ain't because of the Green New Deal policies that we need to pass. That's not because we need to be zero emissions. That's because people need to stop throwing trash outside and pissing outside. You know what I'm saying? Green New Deal is not going to help people pissing outside. The building's still going to smell like piss, whether we recycle it or not. You can ban plastic straws. Keep doing it. We just going to piss on the streets anyways. And it's going to stink. Anyways, Peter Bergelis goes up after this Green New Deal nut job, and he says, hey, he's the last person to speak. It's me and it's Peter Bergelis, and it's like one other lady in there writing stuff down. I think she's taking notes, and it's the county board, right? Nobody else is there at the capital improvements meeting. I'm telling you, we got to start being, this county stuff is too important. Alderman Peter Bergelis goes into the capital improvements meeting to tell the county supervisors that he is tired of this road project, this same road project being deferred year after year, budget after budget. We got it approved back in 2020. Here we are in 2024, and it's still not done. It's moved further down the priority list, and it needs to get handled because my constituents are constantly calling me about the roads. They constantly have to pass by unfinished road projects that we got the money for years ago. Peter Bergelis, I don't agree with a lot of your policy, but you know what I do agree with? I agree with you making the time out to talk about some serious shit. Peter Bergelis isn't one of the type of guys that's going up there just to talk about the things that he cares about personally. Now, he could have been just like the Green New Deal people and went up there and said, we need more safe spaces for gay people to eat lunch in the Capitol, in the city hall. We need more LGBTQU LPDs. We need all that in these areas. No. He went to go advocate for his constituent. He went to go talk about the needs of the people in a room full of people that he probably considered friends in most cases. A lot of them is liberal nut jobs. This is why your alderman is so important, because people like Peter Bergelis will go to the county board and they'll say, what about my district? What about my constituents? Why aren't we prioritizing what needs to happen in my area for my people? Because his people are calling their alderman. He's being a mouthpiece for his people. He's translating that to those who are responsible for making those decisions. We have to make sure that we are being careful about who we are voting for in those races. Let me tell you, the lower the race, the closer to local government the race is, the more important it is. Let's treat it as such. I have a very special guest, Maria Lazar, candidate for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. She is here, and we will be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Okay, I have with me the best candidate for the State Supreme Court that I have ever known. Okay, I've worked on a couple of these Supreme Court races in the past, and we get a lot of cardboard boxes. All right, we get a lot of people who want to do the job well, but do not know how to translate themselves the best. And I believe that Maria Lazar is our best chance at a constitutional judge that I have ever seen in my 10 years of politics so far. And I wanted to bring her here to talk about not only her role that she plans to work, but so that you guys could get to know her a lot better, because we should have good relationships with our elected officials, whether they are serving on the bench in the judicial system or they are in the legislature. They are going to shape, their decision making will shape our lives, in her case, for the next 10 years, right?
10 years.
There we go. Okay, so Maria Lazar, if you can introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, give us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. A little bit of background about myself. Born and raised in Wisconsin, actually born in Milwaukee. Then my family moved to Brookfield, where I lived majority of my life. I've lived in Wisconsin every year except for 3 when I went to law school at Georgetown.
Okay.
I obviously law school, so I became a lawyer. About 20 years of private practice downtown Milwaukee. Then I decided it just wasn't enough. I wasn't giving back, so I applied to work for the Department of Justice, and I worked for 2 attorney generals, and I was there about 5 years. And then I had a case that made me want to run for circuit court judge in my home county of Waukesha, which I did unopposed. I prefer that method. It's very nice. You don't have a candidate.
I'm sure. A lot of people in Milwaukee know about that.
So it's not common in Waukesha. So I ran unopposed. And then after running another term, I then ran for the Court of Appeals. So I was on the circuit court about 7 years, and now about 4 years on the Court of Appeals.
Okay, and just for specification, because I've spent this entire podcast talking about the spring election, but there are races for the Court of Appeals and for the circuit courts. Your circuit courts are the ones who take care of, prosecutions. They're the ones that are going to oversee a lot of the serious cases in your areas. Your Court of Appeals are the ones that kind of review those cases and make sure the law was followed properly. They will provide recommendations, but they can't themselves necessarily reverse laws. Is that correct?
Well, we can to a degree. So you're correct. So there's about 261 or so circuit court judges. Those are state court judges. They're sort of on the front line. So in several counties, there are different amounts. In Milwaukee, there's about 47, maybe 49 now. And then there's 16 Court of Appeals judges. And so the Court of Appeals judges, you have an automatic right of appeal to the Court of Appeals. You get to go there no matter what. And the Court of Appeals, where I sit now, we make decisions and we affirm or reverse cases. And then you have an opportunity to ask for the state Supreme Court to review a decision of the Court of Appeals. They get 500 of those a year or so, and they take maybe 10 to 15 or less. It used to be about 70, used to be more than that, and now it's about 10 to 15. So if the Court of Appeals decision is not taken by the state Supreme Court, then the Court of Appeals is the final word.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, let me ask you, is there any hobby or any passion that you have just individually, personally, that no one would know coming from Maria Lazar, candidate for Supreme Court?
Well, yes. So it's funny. I love to do needlepoint, which is I make little stockings and pillows and things.
Okay.
And I love to read English murder mysteries. Those are my 2 favorite things.
So when you say English murder mysteries, you mean like in the UK, right?
Yes. So, the detectives from there. And I love doing that. I haven't had time to do that in this campaign or needlepoint. But once it's all over, I've won and everything's done, I'll go back to those. But those are sort of my 2 secret little hobbies.
That's what's up. I like to golf. I'm not good at it. And I don't do it enough to be okay at it. But that's one thing nobody knows about me too often. Let me ask you, what was the moment where you knew? Okay, you're on the appeals court, right? What was the moment that you knew back then that you wanted to be a part of the judicial system?
So first, I can go a little bit further back. I can say when I was in 4th grade, that's when I knew I was going to be a lawyer. It's when I decided that I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I decided that wasn't a really good hobby or a good profession. So I decided I was going to go into law. But when I was working for the Department of Justice, I had a lot of big cases, but I had this small case about foster kids. And I had a judge in Dane County tell me on the record that the law did not matter. And I went home and I was so upset. I lost. I was so upset, and I said, I can do better than this. And that's when I knew I was going to run for judge in Waukesha County. When that happened and that judge said that to me and destroyed this child's life, I decided I could do better, and I did.
Well, what was the moment while you're on the Court of Appeals that I want to go run for Supreme Court? What drove you to make the decision to run for the highest court in the state?
I think looking at last year's election, looking at the ones beyond that, before that, the elections are just turning into such big political, they're just horrible. So I saw what happened last year. I saw all the money that was spent. I saw how no one talked about the merits of the candidates, how qualifications didn't matter. And I saw how it almost seemed like money was buying a seat. Yeah. And even though I love being on the Court of Appeals, and even though running for any campaign, I will tell you, it's a toll on your families and people you know, I decided this was something I had to do. And then obviously when Justice Bradley decided, Rebecca Bradley, that she wasn't going to run, that this was something that I should do.
That's amazing. You're 100% right. Our judicial elections have become the equivalent to a state senate seat.
Yes.
You know, and it's it's not like Wisconsin is funding this. Like, you've got some of the richest people in states like California pouring millions and millions of dollars into Supreme Court races,
Yes.
right? And one question we have to ask is why? You know, there's no reason to spend. There's people that would spend more money on a Supreme Court race today than they would spend on a House of Representatives race,
Oh, I know.
right? And that's because the courts, you know, if you politicize them right and you can take advantage of them right, hold a lot of power. Unfortunately, it's turned into political power. How do you feel about, because I remember during that entire time, I was out and I just started the Black Policy Initiatives. I was out advocating against judges who predetermined cases before they were brought to the bench. And I thought that it was a travesty that it happened on our end. I heard conservatives who, on my end, because I know you're nonpartisan, I would hear conservatives talk about how we need to fight back and we need to play the political game as well. And, you know, I would tell them, you know, it's wrong no matter what side it comes from, but in their opinions, we have to fight fire with fire. I think that it's a slippery slope. You know, if you open the door on any end, then you're allowing for it to be okay, and then you become hypocrites when you want to hold people accountable for it. So how do you feel about, you know, the predetermination of these cases, and, you know, how do you feel about the polls, the judicial system becoming a political playground for people to push policy and ideology from political parties?
And there's a lot there. So first of all, the main key with one of the reasons why I'm running and one of the reasons why I decided to run is that we do have to take back our judicial races.
Mm-hmm.
We have turned them into political campaigns. If you watched all the ads last time, it was all political. If in my estimation is that my opponent, Chris Taylor, who is from California, was a Democratic legislator in Madison and is now a judge. I think she's going to run this as a candidate for a political office.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be the same political ads, political dirty tricks, political statements. And that's okay, because that they can do that. That's fine. That's not what Wisconsin wants. I think Wisconsin honestly wants to go back to who's the better qualified judge,
Mm-hmm.
who's the person who's going to be fair and impartial, who's going to restore justice to our state Supreme Court. Our races right now, when I ran for the Court of Appeals, my opponent had tons of money come in from California. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
And here in this race, there's already money coming in from out-of-state places and out-of-state entities and people, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is a Wisconsin seat, and we need to go back and restore justice to our courts, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, I also know that Marquette did a poll where 83% of the people in my state of Wisconsin have said they actually want to hear what our judges and justices and our candidates think and where they stand. So in the past, and I still stand by it, you have to be ethical and you
Mm-hmm.
can't say how you're going to rule on a specific case.
Yes.
But what you can say is what you stand for, what rights you uphold, and what your positions are. So we put out a position about 5 weeks now on redistricting, fair maps, fair
Mm-hmm.
courts for the state of Wisconsin. And then we just did one maybe about 2-3 weeks ago on reproductive rights and abortion. And we're going to have another one coming out on religious freedoms and keeping faith. And we're just going to keep doing that to tell people what I stand for, but not how I'd rule on any specific case.
Yes.
If you have a judge or a justice who tells you and telegraphs or winks and nods on how they're going to rule, that's unethical.
Mm-hmm.
That's unacceptable. And that's
Yes.
not what I'm going to do. I've never done it. And I think this is really important. In the state of Wisconsin, while they want to hear what we stand for, they don't want to hear how we're going to rule, because everyone wants to walk into a courtroom and know that they're going to get a fair opportunity.
Yes.
And that's what I'll provide.
Yes, and to that point, Janet Protasiewicz, Susan Crawford, right? They on record said, I think that we should do this about abortion. If
Right.
you elect me, I support this. You will get this from me as a judge, right? And I always use this example. If you think about lower levels at the circuit court, right, or at the Court of Appeals, imagine being a black man walking into a courtroom and your fate already being decided for you. And we don't think about it in that way because a lot of the times the things that are brought to the Supreme Court for challenge, it's legislation. It becomes more of a political playground at some point because a lot of the policies are what people are bringing to challenge at the Supreme Court about whether or not it's constitutional. But realistically, like I said, when you allow it the first time, you're opening up the floodgates for it to be accepted in all of these other courts. And, I saw the Emmett Till documentary. All right. They knew how that was going to go before it ever happened. They knew those men were going to walk away innocent. They knew that Emmett Till's death would never go answered before the case was ever heard. It's the same thing here, right? If you're a person who supports life, if you're a person who does not support abortion, or you're just a person that supports the way government works, that you pass laws through your legislature and that those laws are signed into law by your governor. If you believe in that type of fairness, then things like this should scare you, and we should advocate against judges doing things like this. And I'm glad you're speaking up against it. And it's a shame because, although you run in a nonpartisan race and you've declared to be an individual who believes in certain things, but you know that you are supposed to be fair and impartial, you are still looked at as the conservative type candidate. Correct. And even the people who are in your base who support you, they're pushing you hard to not be fair, to play the same game. And we don't know about the dangers of that, but unfortunately, it might even cause people to feel like the race is already lost. How do you plan to overcome that outcry for us to play politics along with the left?
Well, it's interesting and it's funny because you're absolutely right. The last thing anyone in the state of Wisconsin should want is to walk into a courtroom before you've said one word or your lawyer said one word and know you've lost or know you've won. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing you want. You don't want to walk in and say, well, this side has the more expensive lawyer or they have the bigger amounts of money that they can spend and they're going to win and I'm going to lose even though I'm right. You don't want to walk into a courtroom and have that happen. You don't want it on either side. And some of the things that I'm concerned about are that we have a state Supreme Court now that is not just hinting at what they're going to do, but they've telegraphed a lot of things. The Chief Justice has currently said that she believes they now have a mandate to not carry the water for right-wing special interest groups, which means, quite frankly, that she's going to be, or they should be, or they want to be now ruling against a group or entities just based on what side they're on. It's absolutely correct that my views are more conservative. I'm more fiscally conservative, environmentally a little iffier there. But the problem is that it doesn't matter. My views are my views. I believe that judges put on black robes and we put our personal views behind them. And that if someone walks into our courtroom and we don't like the way the case is going to come out because of the facts and the law, too bad. Yeah. And you should never be on the other side. And I worry about people who think, oh, play fire with fire, attack back, do the same thing. Well, that's a problem because if you have judges who are going to, or justices who are going to be activists and they're going to help you think on a few things, they're going to turn around and all of a sudden they're going to be doing whatever they want to do and they think is better and they're going to hurt you. They're going to hurt the entire state of Wisconsin. And everyone in the state has to wake up, look around and say, we want to win or lose based on the facts and the law. We don't want to have it set for us.
Yes.
And I think everyone feels that way and they just have to think about it and look at what's happening and say, we don't want our courts paid for by other people. We don't want our courts to have an agenda No, we're not politicians. We don't want our judges to start writing the laws. We elect our elected officials and they do what they're going to do. And I'm not even going to get into how they work and what they do and how they bargain and go back and forth. That's not what judges do. We're sober. We just sit there. We're boring. And we just look at what the law is and we say what it is. And that's what we need to get back to. None of this big, I mean, I used to say it's not the sexiest race. It's not. I mean, you got a lot of other groups that can do that. We're not.
Yes. Now, to that point, I 100% agree with you, right? I believe that they also know that it's not sexy, and that's where a lot of this politicizing of the courts come from, right? It's how do we make this interesting enough for voters to get out there and vote? I don't think the answer is to openly break the law.
No.
I think the answer is work harder. There's a lot of people right now sitting at home watching this or in the car listening to this who haven't planned to knock a door or donate $1 or actually put the work in as necessary to win a race like this, because it does come down to what you talked about earlier. Who is this person as a judge, right? What makes them qualified to hold a seat on the highest court in the state? The other thing is this person going to continue to uphold the law once they're actually elected, right? We know that Chris Taylor is a judge that was appointed by Governor Evers. He's already in the system of the Democratic Party, right? Even if you think about redistricting, all 9 of the judges reviewing redistricting are judges that were appointed by Governor Evers, if not most of them, right? And so our judicial system is already plagued with political adversaries. We don't need to become the next political adversary.
No, it doesn't win that way. And I don't think people in Wisconsin want that. And I think that's one of the messages that I have. And that's why I think this race is going to be really different and unique. We're not going to do the same old, same old. We're not just going to hit the airwaves and talk to political groups. We're trying to reach out to as many different people as we can, talk to as many people in person, and just tell them to tell their friends and family that this election is so important, because I think it's putting a line in the sand, and I think we're going to say enough. The state of Wisconsin is tired of this. We don't want these ads in our airwaves. We don't want this political mudslinging going on anymore, and we don't have to. We don't have to do it. April elections are nonpartisan. They are your judges, your other officials who are not one party or another.
Yeah.
That's how it belongs, and that's what it deserves to be, and that's where I think we're going to go back to. I am so optimistic that Wisconsin is going to see it my way. I'm so optimistic that they're going to look at this and say, we are done. We're not Illinois. We're not Minnesota, and we're definitely not California. I mean, you talk about my opponent, Chris Taylor. I mean, she's from California. She then worked for Planned Parenthood and a private law firm. She has said she doesn't know if she'll recuse on Planned Parenthood or abortion cases.
Wow, really?
Yes. She's going to think about that.
What?
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna think about if I'm gonna follow the law. Out there, you can't. It ain't a black man in America that could walk outside and say, "I think about it." If I might spark this blunt right here on the corner. I might not. I don't know. That's crazy. The type of privilege that she would have in that, in openly breaking the law.
And no one's pushing her on it, and no one's gonna ask her about it. And they ask me about cases that I've been on, and it's like, if I've been on a case that's in front of me as a judge, I don't sit as a judge on the case.
Right.
If I have 2 brothers that are lawyers, if they're in front of me, I don't hear their case.
Yeah.
Now that's mainly because I might rule against them. No, that's a joke. But it just, there's certain things you don't do. And she is going to go onto this position, and they're not even hiding it anymore. They're not even pretending. They're saying that they want this court to be a court like Minnesota, all one persuasion, all one political point of view. We need judges and justices who are going to debate, who are going to have a diversity of thought, who are going to fight with each other and come to points. I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court had Scalia and Ginsburg, and no one would ever say they were the same side of most cases. Well, they were on a lot of cases together, but they fought on a lot of other ones. But they were best friends off the court. So that's what we need. We need people to get in that fray, really be honest and use integrity and fight for what they believe in and what they believe the law is, but then go off and be friends.
Yes.
And that's what I can do.
Yes, I love that, and going to the part of really upholding and standing on your belief of the law. You know, the last time that we've won a Supreme Court election where we've had a truly constitutional judge win, or at least a judge that was promoted as such, was Brian Hagedorn.
Correct.
And Brian Hagedorn, since being elected, have received a lot of criticism from his conservative supporters about the type of judge he's been. But the type of judge he's been, for the most part, has been pretty fair and impartial, which is why they don't like him. Right? He recused himself from Act 10. He worked on Act 10. Act 10 was the policy that basically said if you don't want to pay into the union, you don't have to pay into the union. Right? He worked as legal representation in the Walker administration to help get that bill passed. When there was a challenge to Act 10 and whether or not it was constitutional brought to the courts, he recused himself.
Correct.
And a lot of conservatives who hope to keep Act 10 and who hope to defeat the activist courts that are actively trying to get rid of Act 10, they're upset at him for doing so. They would hope that he would rule in their favor and stay, because you see right now, as you just mentioned, Chris Taylor, she worked for Planned Parenthood, and she isn't openly willing to recuse herself from that case. Brian Hagedorn is. And this is going back to that, this not being sexy work, but it being the necessary work. We have to continue to defend people like Brian Hagedorn. They're tearing them apart right now because of it. What do you think about Brian Hagedorn and the flack that he's been receiving because he's willing to maybe take the unpopular opinion from conservatives and disassociate himself with ideals he probably aligns with?
Well, and that's the interesting thing, is that recusal is two parts. So the first is if you believe that you can't be impartial because you were involved in a case, and it's all something of what you believe. And the second part is what other people perceive. Mm-hmm. So if they think there's an appearance that you're not going to be fair. And I've never criticized a judge or a justice who's recused off a case. They know why they have to be off that case. That's their decision, and it's so important. The times that I sometimes have a little question or two is when someone doesn't recuse. I think we have to be, we don't just have to be fair and impartial in our minds. Mm-hmm. We have to make sure that we look fair and impartial. So if someone walking in, as you said before, if you walk in the courtroom and you look at the judge and you think, oh, the judge is wearing pins that say they hate me, obviously I'm not going to get a fair shake. And the judge is thinking, oh, this is just costume jewelry, it doesn't matter. No, that judge has to recuse. Yeah. I mean, if you walk into a courtroom, or if everyone in this state looks at a judge or a justice and says they aren't going to be fair, even if they in their head say, yes, I am, they have to recuse. Yeah. And that's the part that's so difficult, because it's a personal decision. And when circuit court judges recuse or don't recuse, you can challenge that to the Court of Appeals. And then you can challenge the Court of Appeals judge that doesn't recuse to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court is the final word. Mm-hmm. So what do? You have to hope that they look at everything and say, this one appeal, this one opinion, this one decision is not more important than my reputation and the faith and trust that the public has in the judiciary. It's eroded. The public doesn't trust us, and they should. And I'm ashamed when things like that happen, and I'm hopeful and I'm confident that that's going to change.
Yeah. And the sad part about it is, if they do trust the court, they trust it for the wrong reasons. They trust Brian Hagedorn to stay on the Act 10 case so that he could defend Act 10, right? They trust that Susan Crawford stays on the abortion case, even though she openly said that she would vote yes in favor of it, right? Right. And so they're trusting that the court aligns with their individual ideology, not that the court is going to follow the law as it was written, which, going to my next question, what is the proper role of the Supreme Court?
Well, and that's a good question. So the Supreme Court, so the circuit courts, they see people and they find facts and they assess credibility of people. The Court of Appeals, we correct mistakes. That's what the Court of Appeals does. What the Supreme Court does, the 7 justices on that Supreme Court, they're the final word on the state of the law in the state of Wisconsin. They interpret the laws, they uphold the Constitution, they issue decisions that are precedential, which means they have to be followed throughout the state of Wisconsin. But they also do other things. They're in charge of judicial conduct and attorney discipline. So they do more things than just make decisions, but they have to be, they have, I used to say that I looked at them as if they were on a pedestal, and I don't, because obviously now you know everybody and you know things, but I still think they have to be better than they think they are. They have to look to the state of Wisconsin, and they have to try to do the absolute utmost best so that everyone in this entire state has faith in them.
Yes.
And that's what we need. We don't need people to say, oh, it's a liberal court or it's a conservative court. We need to say it's a fair constitutional court.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what we need to go back to.
Yes. Their job is not to write the law or to create laws. Their job is to look at what the law already is and to align that with what the challenge is at the court, and to decide whether or not this law goes against any of the Constitution as written. Does the interpretation of this law go against this law as it was written, right? And then to hold them accountable for what that ruling is and for what the law is. But it is not for you to come in and say, I think abortion should be legal, and so the ban is unconstitutional. No. Right? And anyone who is promoting that out there, voters, if you're hearing that from Chris Taylor, when you hear that, slap it down. You rebuke it in the name of Jesus. It is not good for you. It's not good for our courts.
Nope.
It is bad judiciary practice, and we do not want to promote things like that in any level of court. Not just the Supreme Court, but in the circuit courts and the Court of Appeals. But if the highest court in the state is going to break the law, right, then of course Hannah Dugan's going to walk an immigrant right out the back door. Of course she's going to send ICE agents off, because the Supreme Court goes and determines what the law is going to be every day. And it's already happening here in Milwaukee.
Yep. And the problem is that people think they want a court that is going to rule for them. But that's the biggest mistake. That's the slipperiest slope, because once you tell the justices to untether themselves from the law, then you tell them that they can do whatever they want to do. And while you think that they're going to rule for you, well, in the next case and the case after that, they're not.
Yeah.
And they're going to start saying things like, well, I know better than you people in the state of Wisconsin who elected your legislature and your governor. I know better than all of them, and we'll tell you what to do. And then you need the legislature and the governor to get together and overrule what the court did, which it can do.
Yeah.
It can pass a law, and the legislature and the governor can sign it. But if you give that power away to 7 lawyers in robes in Madison, you are in severe danger.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a lot harder to undo those things at the state level. They can do it, but the chances of it getting done, and you're seeing it right now. There's been an effort to get rid of things like choice education and Act 10 for a really long time. But, there was enough balance in our courts to continue to uphold those laws, because that was the law, right? The Act 10 or school choice, these didn't break any laws, right? So there was no need to get rid of them, right? That's going to go away.
And those cases might come up, so I won't comment on them specifically.
Okay.
But
She follows the law, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Prime example.
But what I will say is, if you want to change those, you don't go to the court. You go to your legislature and you say, hey, all of you get together, pass another law, do it the right way. I mean, everyone knows how it works when you go to school. You know what the rules are. You know what our 3 branches of government do. And we need to stop putting the courts so high above. I mean, when they formed our country, the funny thing is, the founders thought that the judiciary was the weakest of all the branches. And now we have judges across the state, across the country, who are acting like they are their own little positions of power to do whatever they want to do. You don't go into this position to do that. I mean, it's hard enough. People don't realize how difficult it is to make decisions. I mean, I was on the criminal bench. You want to sentence people to prison? That's not the easiest thing.
Yeah, right.
You want to make decisions that have to do with breaking contracts and lots of money. That's not the easiest thing. But you do it because it's a job and because you love the law. And that's what I do. I love the law. I love the decisions that I have to make. And you know, I used to say, I had a really good judge friend, you know, you're not a real judge till you've been reversed, which I have been. And you're also not a real judge until you make decisions that you don't personally agree with.
Yeah.
But the law says that. So we have to get back to that and restore that.
I agree. Going to that point, are there any cases that you could look at if you are elected to the Supreme Court that you could point to and say, I would recuse myself from that?
Well, there are a list of cases that I would have to. So if it was a case I sat on as a circuit court judge, or I was sat on as a court of appeals, or if any one of my family members, and I have other people who are in the law who've been involved with, if it was a case where I personally was involved as the litigating attorney, because I did cases.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a case that I did that, those are all the cases where I have to recuse, and I would. I used to be on drug treatment court, and I would have parents sometimes, and then I'd see their children in juvenile court, and you'd ask them, do you want me to recuse? Because I will if you want me to. So there are certain lists of things that I would have to recuse from. I don't know of any off the top of my head that are floating around right now other than the ones I've mentioned. But I think those are the easy ones, and those are the ones that I think every judge or justice has to look at and say, like Brian Hagedorn did, if you're involved with writing the law as a lawyer, you can't sit on the case as a judge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah. And look, I'll say this, right? Although our courts have become a political playground, I think one big example of, you know, our morals still being intact in the state when it comes to our courts is Brian Hagedorn. Brian Hagedorn was just as simple of a man as you could get. He's a believer in Christ, right? Which is even, I mean, he's openly very faithful to the Lord. And in today's day, politically, that could be manslaughter depending on who you're talking to. But he survived, and I think a big reason why is because of those morals being intact. And you know, I think conservatives focus so hard on pushing Dan Kelly to be someone he's not that, you know, there was no real effort to make sure he got reelected or to make sure that he could get back into the courts. And I believe here in this situation, you know, I'm about to go on a really long rant about how the Republican Party is really dropping the ball in these spring elections. After you leave, though, I'm going to do
Okay. That's good.
Okay, I'm going to do it after you leave. But, you know, I think that defending these values and doubling down on these things is what we need. We can't concede automatically because you want to do the job the right way.
Right.
I think we're giving the message already to people that this is how it's supposed to be, that our courts are supposed to be politicized. They're supposed to be a circus outside of the courtroom every time the president confirms a new justice, or every time a more conservative minded judge decides that they want to get into the race. Right? We are saying that this is the new way of doing things, and we are getting further and further away from the traditional sense of the law. And it's going to be important, if we are to win these races moving forward, to double down on people who have the same ideology as you, the same morals and values that Brian Hagedorn has. Not to attack you guys or to doubt your abilities to win, but to use that as an example of why you should have the win. Because people already don't trust the government.
Right.
And people in certain communities, like the ones that we grew up in Milwaukee, they definitely don't trust the law. Knowing that those two things exist, knowing that there is a lack of trust in both of those areas, maybe going to the people and telling them about all of the reasons why they have someone to trust, maybe that's the thing that gets us a good constitutional judge in Maria Lazar sitting on the bench after April 7th.
And that's the point. My message is to not just one political party or the other. It's to everyone in the state of Wisconsin.
Yes.
It's to every voter. It's to every citizen. It's to everyone, telling them that you have the opportunity to seize this chance. And you're right, elections in April are low turnout, but they don't have to be. I mean, we can make this election a groundswelling. And that's what I intend to do, is go around this entire state to any group that will have me, Democrat, Republican, Liberal Party, Libertarian, Common Sense, any different group. I don't care. I will go anywhere, talk to anyone, and tell them why it's so important for every single person that you have a justice who actually is going to restore the justice to the courts.
And you've been making an attempt to go to Democratic events.
I have.
Right? And how has that been?
It's been hit or miss. I've gone to a few things. I've gone to county bar associations. I've talked to high school kids. I've talked to college students. I've talked to non-political groups, common sense groups, gun show clubs, different things. It's not as easy to get to political, liberal political groups because, one, I'm not invited. There have been a few that have invited me, and I am going to them. Nice. And I think it's really important because this isn't a gotcha game. This is a very serious 10-year position that you are hiring someone to work for you for 10 years. And you need to make sure that they're going to devote their life, their soul, their heart to this. And that's what I intend to do. I intend to give every last breath of myself, every last ink in my pen, to doing the right thing for the state of Wisconsin.
That's amazing. Maria, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to the people. Guys, listen, if you need to know who you're going to vote for, I think you just heard exactly why you should vote for Maria Lazar. There is a shortage of honesty in all levels of government right now. And there's definitely a shortage of honesty in our judicial branches. But there is hope.
Yes.
Now, that hope does not lie in the hands of the political parties that should have the backs and the organizations that should have the backs of people like Maria Lazar. I'm about to talk about that in a minute. But it does lie in your hands. Knock a door, make a phone call, give $1, do something to support.
Go on my website, judgemarialazar.com. Learn what I stand for, look at my positions, and tell everyone you know, because we are going to shock the world on April 7th.
Awesome. Give me that website one more time.
JudgeMariaLazar, LAZAR.com.
Awesome.
Go do it.
And I'm gonna put it in the description too, so you got it two
Perfect.
different ways. Okay. Thank you so much,
Thank
Maria.
you.
Great luck
Thank
on the
you.
campaign trail.
Thank
I don't
you
even
so
gotta say good luck, cause she's gonna win it.
I am.
We're gonna win it. I'm gonna put my boot in the butts of those responsible for not making sure. Okay. We're about to get into that. I'll be back in just a moment.
Perfect.
And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Maria Lazar for coming again, candidate for State Supreme Court here in Wisconsin. Wonderful human being and individual. It was a real pleasure having her here. Thank you so much, Maria. And we will do everything in our power to get you to where you have to be. I was going to close this podcast out today. Let me get a sip of this tea. That's what this is about to be. A whole lot of tea. That's what all the bad bitches say. Tea. I hate this shit. I wish y'all would stop doing this. What is this? Is this the Mr. Krabs Claw? Stop doing this. The Republican Party, mostly of Milwaukee. I talked to Hilario. He's the chairman of the Republican Party in Milwaukee County. I will double check that upon Corey's return so she can give me proper research so I'm not just giving out false information. Hilario was able to confirm to me that the Republican Party will not be investing any dollars into the Supreme Court race at the county level in Milwaukee. Let me tell you, that is one big crock of shit. Maria Lazar, not only is she a Milwaukee native, But it's probably our best chance for winning the Supreme Court that we've had in a really long time. I just said that, so I don't have to meet Rod again. Y'all already know how I feel. Why won't they spend the money? Let's talk about it. I'm not saying that they have a whole lot of money to spend. What I'm saying is we knew that Maria Lazar was going to be a candidate for a really long time. We knew that Rebecca Bradley, who sat in that seat that Maria Lazar is running for, wasn't going to run for re-election for a really long time. And so I'm really confused as to why the Republican Party in Milwaukee wants to cite that they want to save their money on the governor's race. They want to wait to get involved in the election because they don't feel like it's a winnable race. Well, of course it's not a winnable race if you already gave it the fuck up. You already said you lost. You already said that you didn't want to do it. You said that it was a farce. You said it was a crock of shit and it was a waste of time. Of course you're going to lose. You go knock doors in February, you're going to lose. You can't go start a door campaign in February for an election in April. It's not possible. You don't give the voters enough time to digest these candidates, to get to know these candidates, to connect to why they should go vote for these candidates. Hell, you want to be mad at Maria Lazar because she doesn't want to openly break the law. She doesn't want to predetermine cases. You go do it for her. Why don't you go tell them all of the wonderful ways that you think she could defend conservative priorities? Why don't you do it? But you won't. You don't want to spend the money. You don't want to go do it for free. And I love my man Hilario. I told him I want him to come up here so he can say these things himself. I don't want to just sit here on this microphone and talk a bunch of shit and not give him the opportunity to come talk. All of these things I'm telling y'all right now, I told him to his face over the phone. I guess it's the same thing. Who are you to decide that we lost already if you aren't going to do everything in your power to go get the work done? We keep talking about the money we don't have to spend. Okay, well then don't go spend the money. Ever since I've been out on my own, I run. You see this right here, this logo? That's my shit. That's my shit. I made that. The Black Policy Initiative, I did that. I don't run around crying about how I ain't got enough money to do nothing. I go get it. If I ain't got the money, guess what? I'm at FedEx printing out regular pieces of paper to take to somebody's door. I done came out of my own pocket for door hangers to bring awareness to bad Governor Evers' policies, to bring awareness to increased cost of living in Milwaukee, all on my own. I done been in the poorest neighborhoods in the city of Milwaukee. I don't tell nobody nothing. I just go do it because I love this shit. I love going to talk to the people. I love knocking doors and shaking hands with a voter and hearing them tell me how they feel, tell me what's keeping them from going to the polls, being able to convince them why it's worth it to go now. I love this shit. So I go find a way. And you know who not going to find a way? The Republican Party. Pussies. All of them. Corey just walked in right when I said pussy. Corey's tired of me saying the word pussy. Either I'm talking about how I used to love getting pussy, or I talk about how much pussy I used to get, or I'm calling somebody a pussy. And in this case, the Republican Party being a group of coochie motherfuckers. All right, you don't want to go spend the money, then find a way to go do the work without spending the money. You don't have the money. You know you wasn't going to have the money in September. You knew you wasn't going to have the money a long time ago. Why didn't you go get it? What's the point of having neighborhood captains and having all of these field officers if ain't none cracking in them? Y'all not doing nothing. I'd advise all of these Republican Party branches to get off their fat asses and get to work. I get to work. It's bags in Michigan, it's bags in Illinois, and it's now finally I'm getting some bags in Wisconsin too. Every time somebody with some money told me no in Wisconsin, I went to go get some money somewhere else because I'm a boss. I own mines. I take responsibility for mines. I don't sit around and finger point at why things ain't going well for me. I'll go get mines. In the Republican Party, if you want to win a race, you gotta go get yours. You understand? Right? Go get yours. But don't admit the defeat. Don't admit the defeat. You look stupid admitting the defeat. Brian Hagedorn won that race after Trump won. That was the year we were supposed to lose everything. We wasn't supposed to pick up another thing. Historically, history tells you that you are not going to win a presidential race and have the greatest time the next year. Normally, voters respond on either side. And we still got Hagedorn in against all odds. And look at us now. Hopeless. Broke as a bitch. With no answers. If we lose this race, this Supreme Court race, it's not because Maria Lazar didn't break the law in predetermined cases. It's not because she didn't get too political to fight back. It's because we said we lost before we even got started. The exact words from the Republican Party of Milwaukee is, it's not worth it. We're going to lose. We'll put the money behind the governor's race. Like the governor's race is the only race happening in Wisconsin. Oh, we're still going to go and volunteer for Maria, though. We're still going to go help her. What does that do? They're going to outspend her greatly. She needs a lot more than just your commitment to help. And who's the help? The young Republicans? That's the help you're talking about? If you can barely recruit a volunteer to go, you know what? Forget it. It makes no sense to continue to give you guys the answer if you aren't going to pay me. You can't keep saying you want to go talk to people and then do everything in your power to do the exact opposite. You want to win and you do everything in your power to do the exact opposite. Oh, yeah, we're going to go and put all of our support behind these local elections. Well, when is that door knocking going to start? Why are we not door knocking right now? Okay, the Supreme Court race, you think it's a loss? Okay, what about the county board races? Nobody's putting money behind that. Nobody's putting work behind that. Politics is a dirty game. Wisconsin can get even dirtier. That's why I had to go to a different state to make some real money. You know what I'm saying? People ask me, Jamiroquai, how is it possible that you can leave Wisconsin, drive to Michigan, run payroll, and come right back the same day? Get up in the morning, go pick your daughter up and take her to school. You want to know how I can do that? Because I like getting the fuck to it. It ain't that bad. It ain't that hard when you get to look outside and you see the city of Milwaukee in front of you. It ain't that bad when you get to wake up and your kid is fed and you're well dressed and you feel like the man. I get to it. I had to leave Wisconsin to get to it, though. Why? These people here, they hopeless. They won't spend a dollar. And if they will spend a dollar, they don't want you to do nothing with the damn dollar they gave you. They want to limit you. Hilario, go print this shit out. You got $1,000. You just announced you raised $100,000. Take $1,000, hit FedEx, make some little one-pagers, fold them up like pamphlets, and call my phone. I'll come and pass them bitches out for free with you. For Maria Lazar. You dig it? And that go for all of y'all around the state. You got $1,000, print up some papers. Jamiroquai Killer will come hold it down for you. You know what I'm saying? That's how I get down. Free of charge. Free charge. Just bust a move. I'll come drive wherever you need me to, as long as I ain't recording on that day, or as long as it ain't no motherfucking money in Michigan. You heard me? Shout out to my homies on the North Side, unemployed, making that moolah. Shout out to my homegirls in the suites doing the hair with no cosmetology license. I love y'all, but check this out. Stop telling people to come with their hair washed already, because that's illegal. And if you gonna break the law once, don't break the law twice. Jamiroquai Kittler. It's politics as usual.